Jolene was loading the dishwasher for the second time that day, when Marcus walked through the kitchen without slowing down and said, "Did you call about the car insurance?" Not hello. Not thank you for dinner. Not even her name. Just, "Did you call about the car insurance?" The way someone asks if the mail came. She closed the dishwasher door and said yes. She had called, she had been on hold for 40 minutes, and she had sorted it out. He was already in the other room. That was a Tuesday in February, and it was not the first Tuesday that had felt like that. But it was the Tuesday Jolene started keeping a list. She did not set out to run an experiment. That came later, after she showed the list to her friend Priya over coffee one Saturday morning. Not to complain, just to see it out loud, because sometimes you need another person's eyes to tell you whether something is real. Priya read the list slowly. She did not say anything dramatic. She just set the paper down and said, "Jolene, when did he last do something for you that you didn't ask for first?" Jolene opened her mouth and then closed it again. She drove home thinking about that question. She thought about it while she picked up Marcus's dry cleaning, which she had also not been asked to pick up, but had picked up anyway because it was on her way. And because she always did things like that, the small invisible things that kept a life running. She thought about it while she made dinner and while she answered 3 work emails from her laptop at the kitchen table. And while she reminded Marcus that his mother's birthday was next weekend, and had he thought about what to get her, he said he'd figure it out. He did not figure it out. Jolene ordered the gift on Thursday and had it wrapped and shipped. She was 31 years old. She was an occupational therapist at a rehabilitation center in Mississauga, and she was good at her job, which required her to be organized, patient, and quietly persistent with people who were struggling. She had been with Marcus for 4 years and married for 2. They had a condo in Etobicoke, a dog named Biscuit, and what she had believed until recently was a functional partnership. She was starting to wonder what Marcus believed they had. She tried to think of the last time he had initiated something, a plan, a gesture, a conversation about their future. She thought about the last time he had asked how her day was and waited for the actual answer. She thought about the weekend she had spent in bed with the flu, running a fever, and how Marcus had left her a glass of water on the nightstand and then gone out with his friends, because, he said, there was nothing he could do anyway. She had thought that was reasonable at the time. She was starting to think it wasn't. The list she had shown Priya was 2 pages long. It included things like, called the landlord when the heating unit made that noise. Jolene. Renewed the car registration. Jolene. Booked the vet appointment for Biscuit. Jolene. Remembered that Jolene's work colleague was going through a divorce and asked about her. Nobody. Bought a birthday card for anyone in either of their families in the past calendar year. Also nobody. But Jolene had bought 7. It was not a list of catastrophes. It was a list of a life being held together by one person while the other person lived inside it. Priya had said at the end of that coffee, what would happen if you just stopped? Not forever, just for a while. To see. Jolene had said that seemed extreme. Priya had shrugged. Or it's information. She didn't make a formal decision. It was more like she stopped making the informal ones. She stopped adding Marcus's name to her mental to-do list. She stopped noticing that there was no milk and buying milk. She stopped reminding him about the dentist appointment she had booked for him in November, which he had rescheduled twice and still not gone to. She stopped tracking his family's birthdays in her phone. She stopped asking if he wanted her to pick up anything on her way home. She still cooked dinner most nights because she liked cooking, and she was going to eat anyway. She still walked Biscuit in the mornings because she liked the mornings, and Biscuit was her dog too. She was not trying to punish Marcus. She was trying to see what would happen if she just existed in their home without managing it. The first week, nothing happened. Or rather, things happened, but they happened slowly, like the silence after a sound that takes a moment to register. The milk ran out and Marcus went to the corner store and bought a small carton, which he used for his own cereal, and did not replace when it was gone. The dry cleaning she hadn't picked up stayed on his list of things to do, which apparently was a list that existed somewhere, but had no urgency or timeline. He did not book a new dentist appointment. He did not send his cousin a birthday message, even though Jolene's reminder had expired and she had not refreshed it. She noticed all of this without saying anything. She was not sulking. She was paying attention. The second week, Marcus asked her if she had seen his gray jacket. She said she hadn't, which was technically true. She had last seen it on the hook by the door, where he had left it 3 days ago, but she had not moved it or touched it, which meant she genuinely did not know if it was still there, or had migrated somewhere else in the mystery geography of things Marcus put down and expected to be found again. He found the jacket himself. He didn't mention it after that. Later that week, he asked if she had paid the internet bill, and she said no, she hadn't. There was a pause. Were you going to? He asked. You might, she said, which was not exactly a lie. She had thought he might. She had thought about it with genuine curiosity. He paid it. It seemed to cost him something to do this. Not money, but attention. The particular focused attention required to locate the account. Remember the password, complete the transaction. He paid it, and then he looked slightly put upon in a way she recognized, because it was the way she had apparently been looking for 2 years without either of them noticing. Priya texted her on a Thursday night. Well? Jolene texted back. He paid the internet bill. Priya sent back a single emoji, a magnifying glass. The third week was when things started to shift. Marcus's mother, Diane, called on a Sunday afternoon, and Jolene could hear the conversation from the kitchen because Marcus had stepped onto the balcony but not closed the door properly. She wasn't trying to listen. She was making tea, and she could hear. Diane was asking about the family dinner planned for the following weekend. She wanted to know what Marcus was bringing. There was a long pause. I thought Jolene was handling that, Marcus said. Jolene set down her mug. She had never been asked to handle the family dinner. She had handled the last 3 because she was good at it, and because someone had to, and because Marcus had always been in the vague orbit of these things. Present at them, grateful after them, absent from the planning of them. She had assumed that arrangement was temporary, the way you assume a lot of temporary things, until they become permanent through repetition. But she had not been asked to handle this one. She had not been told about this one. She was hearing about it now through a balcony door. She heard Marcus lower his voice, which she understood to mean he had realized she might be listening. She went to the living room with her tea. She did not say anything when he came back inside. He said, casual, passing through, My mom's thing is next weekend. I know, Jolene said. Were you thinking of making that pasta thing you do? She looked at him for a moment. He was already looking at his phone. I wasn't actually, she said. I didn't know it was my responsibility. The phone came down slightly. It's not a responsibility. I just thought, you usually do. I usually do a lot of things, Jolene said. That doesn't mean they're mine. This was the longest conversation they had about any of it in those 30 days. Marcus looked at her in the particular way he sometimes did when he felt she was being difficult. Not mean, just puzzled, like she was a document in a language he hadn't been told he'd need to read. He said okay, sure, he'd figure out the dinner. He did not, ultimately, bring anything to his mother's dinner. He told Diane that Jolene hadn't been feeling well, and they hadn't had a chance to sort it out. Diane was gracious about it. Jolene, sitting across the table from Diane with a glass of white wine and a feeling she couldn't quite name, smiled and said she was sorry. Diane said, "Don't be, sweetheart," and the way she said it, soft, almost careful, made Jolene wonder what Diane had observed over the years that she'd never said out loud. The fourth week was quieter than the others in some ways and louder in others. Quieter because Jolene had stopped waiting for something to happen. She had her answer, or most of it. Not in any single event, but in the accumulation. The texture of 30 days in which Marcus had paid one bill, lost and found his own jacket, and failed to bring anything to his mother's dinner. He had not, in that time, asked her how her week was going. He had not noticed that she seemed different, or if he had noticed, he had not asked. He had not, and this one she kept coming back to, done anything that suggested he was aware of being part of a shared life that required maintenance. She had cooked. She had walked Biscuit. She had gone to work and done her job, and come home and been present in their apartment. She had simply stopped being present in the invisible administrative layer that held everything else up. And Marcus had not noticed that layer was gone. He had just bumped up against its absence occasionally, briefly, and then adjusted as if adjusting was normal. It was the adjusting that got her. Not the forgetting, not the neglect, the adjusting. as if the system had a different operator now and that was fine, just different, just a setting that had changed. The louder part came at the end of the 4th week, when Jolene came home from a Friday shift to find Marcus's friend Devin on the couch, and on the coffee table, pizza boxes she had not bought and beer she had not bought, and a sports game on the television at a volume she had not chosen. She said hi to Devin. Devin said, "Hey, Joe." Marcus said hey from the kitchen where he was opening another beer. She fed Biscuit. She changed out of her work clothes. She came back to the living room and sat in the armchair that was technically hers, the one she'd had before they moved in together. And she watched 15 minutes of a game she did not follow, and listened to 2 men talk about things she was not part of. Then she got her coat and her keys, and she called Priya and asked if she was home. Priya was home. Priya's apartment was in Liberty Village, and it smelled like the candles Priya was always buying, and there was herbal tea already made, because Priya had been expecting something like this call, even if not this exact Friday. Jolene sat at Priya's kitchen table and said, "Okay, I think I have my information." She told Priya about the dinner, about the insurance call, about Devin on the couch as though the apartment were a hotel with good service, about the adjusting, the particular quality of Marcus's adjusting when things went undone, the way it contained no alarm, no curiosity, nothing that suggested he was wondering who had been doing all of this before. "He doesn't know," Jolene said, not angrily, just observationally. "He genuinely doesn't know what it costs to live alongside another person. I think he's never had to." Priya held her mug with both hands. "What are you going to do?" Jolene was quiet for a while. "I'm going to talk to him," she said, "and I'm going to be honest about what I've been doing and what I found out. And then I'm going to see what he does with that. And if he doesn't do anything with it?" Jolene looked out Priya's window at the city. She'd lived in this city her whole life. She'd built a good one here. Her career, her friendships, her dog, her habits, the way she liked her mornings and her work, and her evenings with a book or a call with her sister or a long walk along the lake when the weather allowed. She had built a good life. She had brought Marcus into it. "Then I'll know that too," she said. She had the conversation on a Sunday morning, because Sunday mornings were when Marcus was most himself. Unhurried, not on his phone, sitting with coffee at the kitchen table in a way that suggested he might be willing to be present. She had chosen the timing the way she planned things at work, not manipulatively, just thoughtfully. She knew when conditions were better for honesty. She sat across from him and she told him, not the list, not the inventory, but the shape of it, the 30 days, what she had stopped doing, what had happened and not happened as a result. She told him about the dentist appointment, and the dry cleaning and the family dinner. She told him about the insurance call she had made in February, and how he had responded, and how that had started the list. She told him about Priya's question, when had he last done something for you that you didn't ask for first, and how she hadn't been able to answer it. She told him all of it without crying, which surprised her. She had expected to cry. Instead, she felt very clear. The way you feel after a long period of uncertainty finally resolves into a single known thing. Marcus listened. He was quiet for most of it. When she finished, he was quiet for a while longer. Then he said, "I didn't realize." "I know," she said. "I should have been paying more attention." "Yes," she said. He looked at his coffee cup. "I can do better." She studied him. She had loved this person for 4 years. She still did. In the way you love something you've built your life around, even when you're not sure the foundation is right. She could see that he meant it. She could also see, and this was the part that had clarified for her over 30 days, that meaning it and doing it were different things, and she had been surviving on the meaning of it for a long time. "I need to see that," she said. "Not a conversation about it. Actually doing it." He nodded. She nodded back. She called her sister that afternoon, her older sister Tamara, who lived in Calgary and who always asked the right questions. She told Tamara the whole story. Tamara was quiet through most of it, and then she said, "How do you feel?" Jolene thought about it honestly. "Tired," she said, "but less tired than before. Like I put something down that I didn't know I was carrying." "That's good," Tamara said. "That's actually good." The months after the conversation were not a transformation. That was what Jolene needed to say if she was telling this honestly, and she was trying to. Marcus did not become someone else. He didn't suddenly remember birthdays unprompted or book his own dentist appointments or notice without being asked that the dog needed her nails trimmed. He did some things. He started making coffee in the mornings and leaving a cup for her, which was small, but which was something. He texted his cousin happy birthday on his own in March. He asked one evening how her patient was doing, the one she'd mentioned last week, the one relearning to use her left hand after the stroke, and he waited for the actual answer. She noticed each of these things. She wrote none of them down. She also noticed the things that didn't change. The assumption that she would handle logistics, the drifting through a shared space without quite landing in it, the ease with which he received care, and the difficulty he seemed to have generating it outward. These things did not disappear. They thinned slightly, the way old habits thin when someone is making an effort. Not gone, but less dense. She was watching, not with a list this time, just watching, the way you watch something you're still deciding about. Priya asked her, in May, sitting on the patio of a place near Priya's apartment, whether she thought things were going to be okay. Jolene thought about Diane's face across the dinner table, about Devon on her couch, about the particular silence of a month in which she had stopped holding everything up and waited to see what rose to meet her. I think I know what I need, she said, which is more than I knew before. That felt true. It was the truest thing she could offer. She had run an experiment, and she had her data, and the data was not nothing. It told her who she was in this relationship, and who Marcus was, and what they had actually built together versus what she had been building alone. She was not sure yet what she would do with that information. But she was sure, more sure than she had been in a long time, that she was done doing things she didn't know she was doing, carrying weight she hadn't agreed to carry, holding up a life and calling it partnership. Whatever came next, it would be something she chose with her eyes open. Biscuit put her head in Jolene's lap on the way home that evening, and Jolene scratched behind her ears and looked out the car window at the highway lights coming on, as the city went dark around them, and she felt, underneath the tiredness and the uncertainty, something that had been missing for a while. Room. Just room.